picking your investment area or gold mine area, and also what makes an area good for a HMO. That's the topic for today, but remember to like, comment and subscribe, and let's get into it. Now, we're mainly looking at HMOs. So let's say you've got a rent-to-rent deal, or it could also work for a rent-to-SA, meaning serviced accommodation. So let's say you've met a landlord who's agreed to give you their property on a 5-year lease, and you're giving them £1,000. And you've now got 4 bedrooms at which you can rent out at £500 per room. So you've now got a gross profit of £2,000 a month when all the tenants pay their rent of £500. You will now deduct the guaranteed rent of £1,000, leaving you with £1,000. Now you've got to pay for the gas, electric, water, Wi-Fi and all the utilities, and let's just round it up and say it costs £500 a month. So you're now left with a profit of £500. Now let's look at the serviced accommodation model. Let's say you find a 2-bedroom apartment for £800 per calendar month, and you're renting it out on a nightly basis at £120 a night. And every month you get an average of 20 nights. So you're gonna do 120 times 20, which gives you 2,400. Just put the right figure in it in case I got the numbers wrong, but let's just say 2,400. You're now going to deduct the landlord's guaranteed rent of £800, which gives you £1,600. And then again, you're going to deduct all the utilities and cleaning fees for the serviced accommodation. Let's say that leaves you with deducting £400, so you've now made a net profit of £1,200 off a serviced accommodation. So that's how these two models work. Now let's look at what makes an area good for these two models. Now, specifically looking at the rent-to-rent HMO model, you want to be no more than 40 minutes to a maximum of 1 hour away from your investment patch. Now, let's use this example. You live in Canterbury, and because you've heard Northampton is a great area for rent-to-rent, you're going to be traveling 2.5 hours just to carry out a viewing, which is not guaranteed. It's not going to be worth it because it's a waste of your time and your energy. So you want to be a maximum of 40 minutes to an hour somewhere that's easily accessible. Now, this is different from a buy-to-let property, because when you have a buy-to-let property, you can invest in the north, in the south, and you have a letting agent who's going to let and manage the property on your behalf. So for example, I have a few buy-to-let properties in the north of England, but I don't go there to carry out viewings or maintenance issues because I have a letting agent who's based there who lets and manages the property on my behalf. But this isn't the case with a rent-to-rent, because if you're just starting out, you're going to be fully hands-on. You're going to be carrying out the viewings, attending to maintenance and all other issues that arises within the property. So you need to be within a good distance from your investment patch. Now, another thing you need to be aware of when using the rent-to-HMO model is Article 4. Now, Article 4 is just a restriction on easily being able to turn properties into a HMO. So an area that has Article 4 would require you to have planning in place to turn a property into C4, which is a HMO. So if your investment patch is going to be somewhere like Hatfield or Birmingham, these places have Article 4 in place, which means that you can only look for properties that are already HMO licensed. Demand in the area will determine the success of your HMO. So one of the ways of doing this is by carrying out a search on Spare Room. So what you will do is look in Spare Room and see how many people are looking for rooms. So let's say, for example, you type in Birmingham because you want to make Birmingham your investment patch, and you can see that there's 300 people looking for rooms. You will then go back and see how many people are advertising rooms in Birmingham. So let's just say you see, and there are 150 people that are advertising rooms. So there are 150 rooms available, and there's 300 people looking for rooms. Clearly that shows that there is a high demand for rooms in Birmingham, and it could potentially work as a potential patch for rent to HMO. Facebook Market and Gumtree are also other ways in which you can test the demand in the area. So what you could do is put a dummy ad on Gumtree and say, I have a double room to let in Birmingham city centre for £450. And if you get a lot of people calling you wanting to view this room, this is a slight indication that yes, this area may work for HMO. The student market is big, so if your investment patch has a local university, you have potential access to thousands of students looking for high quality rooms. Now, bear in mind with students, some get student finance. So what we do is require our student tenants to pay their rent termly rather than monthly. And on some occasions, we get students that actually pay their rent for the full academic year. Now, one of the cons that we tend to get from people is students tend to sign 9-month ASTs, meaning that you've got the month of June, July, and August potentially empty. But one of the strategies that people use is turn the HMO into an SA, into a serviced accommodation for those 3 months. Now, if you have a local hospital in your chosen investment patch, this is a good indication that it's going to work for HMOs and also serviced accommodation. Now, looking specifically at HMOs, imagine having a group of 5 to 6 nurses who come together and say they want to live in one house share. That gives you full occupancy on your HMO. Now, looking at the serviced accommodation side, you have doctors who work at different hospitals at different times. So they don't live in the area. So now let's say we have a doctor working at your local hospital for 5 nights. He's going to be looking for serviced accommodation and somewhere to stay for those 5 nights, giving you bookings. Having a local airport is another great indication as to whether an area would work for a HMO or serviced accommodation. Now let's look at serviced accommodation. If you have a local airport, you've got people traveling into the town or city to catch a flight in the morning. So they're going to book a serviced apartment to stay in the night before or several nights before. In the same way, you've got somebody coming into the country through the airport in the area, so they may need somewhere to stay for a night or a few nights, giving you bookings. Now, let's look at the HMO aspect. The airport is likely to have thousands of staff who live in the area and are also looking for accommodation. One of the examples I have is in one of my HMOs, which is 4 bedrooms, and I have 4 air hostesses who live in the property. Now, the great thing about it is they're always flying and they're hardly ever in the property. So the property is always kept in great condition. Now, this brings the video to an end. I hope you found the information useful. Do remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification button to receive alerts on all my upcoming videos.